Hello. Oh gosh, we left off and Edward just had his head smashed against a counter at Neil's Diner. We know that there was a crack. We know that Edward's world went completely dark. So let's find out what happens. Today we are going to double up and read chapter 22 and 23. Chapter 22, the picture is actually the picture that's on the front cover. So maybe we'll learn a little bit more about this picture here. Okay? Chapter 22. It was dusk, and Edward was walking down a sidewalk. He was walking on his own, putting one foot in front of the other without any assistance from anybody. He was wearing a fine suit made of red silk. He walked down the sidewalk and then turned onto a path that led up to a house with lighted windows. I know this house, thought Edward. This is Abeline's house. I am on Egypt Street. Lucy came running out the front door of the house, barking and jumping and wagging her tail. "Down, girl," said a deep, gruff voice. Edward looked up, and there was Bull standing at the door. "Hello, Malone," said Bull. "Hello, good old rabbit pie. We've been waiting for you." Bull swung the door wide, and Edward walked inside. Abeline was there, and Nellie, and Lawrence, and Bryce. "Susanna," called Nellie. "Jangles," said Bryce. "Edward," said Abeline. She held out her arms to him. But Edward stood still. He looked around the room. "You're searching for Sarah Ruth?" Bryce asked. Edward nodded. "You gotta go outside if you want to see Sarah Ruth," said Bryce. So they all went outside. Lucy and Bull and Nellie and Lawrence and Bryce and Abeline and Edward. "Right there," said Bryce. He pointed to the stars. "Yep," said Lawrence. "That is the Sarah Ruth constellation." He picked Edward up and put him on his shoulder. "You can see it right there." Edward felt a pang of sorrow, deep and sweet and familiar. Why did she have to be so far away? If only I had wings, he thought. I could fly to her. Out of the corner of his eye, the rabbit saw something flutter. Edward looked over his shoulder, and there they were, the most magnificent wings he had ever seen, orange and red and blue and yellow. And they were on his back. They belonged to him. They were his wings. Oh, what a wonderful night this was. He was walking on his own. He had an elegant new suit, and now he had wings. He could fly anywhere, do anything. Why had he never realized it before? His heart soared inside of him. He spread his wings and flew off Lawrence's shoulders, out of his hands and up into the nighttime sky, toward the stars, toward Sarah Ruth. "No!" Abeline shouted. "Catch him," said Bryce. Edward flew higher. Lucy barked. "Malone!" shouted Bull. And with a terrific lunge, he grabbed hold of Edward's feet and pulled him out of the sky and wrestled him to the earth. "You can't go yet," said Bull. "Stay with us," said Abeline. Edward beat his wings, but it was no use. Bull held firmly to the ground. "Stay with us," repeated Abeline. Edward started to cry. "I couldn't stand to lose you again," said Nellie. "Neither could I," said Abeline. "It would break my heart." Lucy bent her face to Edward's. She licked his tears away. And that was chapter 22. So this image really tells us... My dogs, get out. Out. This image really tells us a lot about what really matters to Edward. You can make your own interpretation of what was happening in chapter 22. I know what mine is, but I just kind of want you to think about that. Where was he? Did he really have wings? Did he really see all of these people? What do you think was happening? So sorry. Okay. Let's keep going now, guys, with chapter 23. You can see here, chapter 23. Looks like there might be a new character here. There's a man possibly kneeling over Edward. Maybe you're thinking of some predictions here of what could be happening in chapter 23. Looks like he's caressing him or something, or washing him. Maybe that's water. I'm not sure. Exceedingly well made, said the man who was running a warm cloth over Edward's face. A work of art, I would say. A surpassingly, unbelievably dirty work of art, but art nonetheless. And dirt can be dealt with, just as your broken head can be dealt with. Edward looked into the eyes of the man. Ah, there you are, the man said. I can see that you are listening now. Your head was broken. I fixed it. I brought you back from the world of the dead. My heart, thought Edward. My heart is broken. No need to thank me, the man said. It's my job, quite literally. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Lucius Clark, doll mender. Your head, may I tell you, will it upset you? Well, I always say the truth must be met head on, no pun intended. Your head, young sir, was in 21 pieces. 21 pieces, Edward repeated mindlessly. Lucius Clark nodded. 21, he said. All modesty aside, I must admit that a lesser doll mender, a doll mender without my skills, might have not been able to rescue you. But let's not speak of what might have been. Let us speak instead of what is. You are whole again. You have been pulled back from the brink of oblivion by your humble servant, Lucius Clark. And here Lucius Clark put his hand on his chest and bowed deeply over Edward. This was quite a speech to wake up to, and Edward lay on his back trying to absorb it. He was on a wooden table. He was in a room with sunshine pouring in from high windows. His head, apparently, had been in 21 pieces, and now was put back together into one. He was not wearing a red suit. In fact, he had no clothes on at all. He was naked again, and he did not have wings. And then he remembered Bryce, the diner, Neil swinging him through the air. Bryce! You are wondering, perhaps, about your young friend, said Lucius, the one with the continually running nose. Yes, he brought you here, weeping and begging for my assistance. Put him together again, he said. Put him back together. I told him, I said, young sir, I am a businessman. I can put your rabbit back together again for a price. The question is, can you pay this price? He could not. Of course he could not. He said that he could not. I told him then that he had two options, only two. The first option being that he seek assistance somewhere else. Option 2 was that I would fix you to the best of my considerable abilities, and then you would become mine. His no longer, but mine. Here, Lucius fell silent. He nodded, agreeing with himself. Two options only, he said. And your friend, he chose option 2. He gave you up so that you could be healed. Extraordinary, really. Bryce, thought Edward. Lucius Clark clapped his hands together. But no worries, my friend, no worries. I fully intend to keep up my end of the bargain. I will restore you to what I perceive to be your former glory. You shall have rabbit fur ears and a rabbit fur tail. Your whiskers will be repaired and replaced. Your eyes repainted to a bright and stunning blue. You will be clothed in the finest of suits. And then someday I will reap the return on my investment in you. All in good time, all in good time. In the doll business we have a saying, there is real time and there is doll time. You, my fine friend, have entered doll time. Okay. So thankful to our doll mender friend Lucius Clark, Edward has been put back together. And Bryce could not afford to pay for this, so he now just belongs to Lucius Clark in his doll shop. So that's where we're at with our friend Edward, Susanna, Malone, Bull, no, not Bull, Jangles. So that's where we're at. Make sure you check your Google Classroom for your assignment on chapter 22 and 23. I'll see you next time.